Hello everyone. Just waiting there for a minute. There's still people joining, so we'll start there in a minute. Hello everyone. Just like to thank you all for attending tonight's webinar. So the webinar tonight will be on suckler breeding and management, synchronization, and sire advice. So tonight we have two excellent speakers. So firstly, we'll have Dennis Howard, technical manager with Munster Bovine, and he will speak on preparing the cow before the breeding season. And then we'll have Rose Goulding, head of the beef breeding program in NCBC, and she will speak about bull selection for the breeding ahead. So I suppose before we continue, I'd just like to say we'll have a Q&A at the end of the presentations. So if anyone has any questions, please add them to the chat box in the webinar. And I suppose we'll get started. And I suppose I'd just like to welcome Dennis Howard with the first presentation.
Thank you very much, Alan. So I said I'd start with some up-to-date statistics from ICBF. So I just pulled off these last night. So I suppose looking at the fertility performance of the national suckler herd. So the average females calved per herd is running at 20, coming from ICBF. So we might come back to that later when we're talking about heat detection. The average calving interval, so the days between successive calvings, is running at 400 days. So that's actually increased a little bit. And what that obviously feeds into then, maybe along with a low level of mortality, is the calves per cow per year at 0.85. So look, I suppose it is an obvious area where I'd imagine most people would like to improve and get closer to one calf per cow per year. So there's obviously there's almost a calf, you could say, to be gained there in every 10 cows. The heifers calved in 22 to 26 months. I suppose that's the kind of the nationally regarded target of 22 to 26 months. People have their own views on that. And then the 6-week calving rate, both in spring and autumn, is running at about 60%. So I suppose, look, most people would say it is a double-edged sword. Having very compact calving means more pressure, more cows calving at one time. And cows and calves, especially heifers and newly calved heifers and calves, they need time to bond. They need a pen of their own to bond up and all that. So it's not that simple if you don't have the facilities. But on the flip side, I think if you can be compact with your calving, there's lots of advantages as regards management. So you have a nice even bunch of calves, easier managed, all those management tasks, creep feeding, weaning. And then I think it makes breeding easier as well. So it makes actually managing the breeding season easier, that the cows are coming into heat together. Heat collection is a bit easier. So there is advantages there. And I suppose then the AI sired calves is actually is quite low, and probably disappointingly low. About 1 in every 5 calves is actually AI born, and that probably reflects the challenges. Most people, maybe outside jobs as well, it reflects the challenges of actually AI in the suckler herd. Okay, Maeve. So I suppose time is not our friend then when it comes to trying to get suckler cows back in calf. We can't do anything about the gestation length. So it is depending on the breed, and Rose will talk about that. Depending on the breed, you're looking at between 280 days, and even up to 295 days, maybe. So, so from the time the cow calves, up to 365 days, we're looking at maybe 75 days on average to try and get the cow back in calf, which is only a couple of cycles. So it is challenging. And I suppose if we look at some of the big ticket items then that actually really affect suckler cow fertility, number one that I have on the list there is easy calving. And Rose will talk about the calving ease, and especially in heifers. So a difficult calving really knocks the cow back, takes the uterus longer to recover, more chance of the cow having an infection. It takes longer for the first cycle to happen, so for the first ovulation to happen, and it takes longer for the cow to go back in calf. That's all well recognized. And I suppose the other two big ticket items then are actually body condition score. You could add nutrition into that, but body condition score around the time of calving, and that the bond then between the cow and calf, which is obviously unique to the suckler cow. Okay, Maeve. So if we look at nutrition then, and as I said, body condition score at calving is really, really important in the suckler cow. So cows that are under conditioned at calving, they never really catch up, they never really recover. And really the body condition sets the time of the first heat, regardless of what you do after that or how well you feed the cow after that. So I suppose what you're really trying to do is calve the cows down in good body condition, but not too good. So you don't want them to be over conditioned that it's going to affect the calving ease, but certainly try and calve them down in good condition, because if you do that, it really feeds into shortening that calving to the first heat interval. And I suppose one thing that I'd really try and avoid then as well, look, some cows are going to have a long time without a calf, so they have a chance of getting over conditioned. But really, if you want to manage their condition, you manage it early and don't be managing it late in gestation. Because late in gestation, in the last 2 to 3 weeks, the cow, there's a fully grown calf inside them. The energy requirements are high. They're trying to make a bag of high quality colostrum. And if you start to restrict them around that time, you're going to really, you're going to put them under pressure, and you're really going to affect the colostrum quality, which is a big knock-on effect on calf health. And then obviously the nutrition after calving, you're talking about milk. Milk production comes in, so you're talking about the maintenance of the cow and feeding her to produce enough milk to do a good job on the calf. So then I suppose a slight, if you just click again as well, then we have a slight segue here. As I was talking about nutrition before calving, I said I'd just cover a little bit about colostrum quality. And I suppose calves are born without any antibodies. So that part of their immune system, they're missing. They've developed no antibodies, and they're relying on the antibodies in the colostrum, which are absorbed quickly, which are for the first few hours after birth through the gut. They're relying on the colostrum for their source of antibodies. So the gut is wide open after calving to take in these antibodies, but as you can see from the graph there, it shuts down quite quickly, and by 24 hours, it's shut down and it won't take in any more antibodies. So I suppose there's a couple of things then. So speed to get the colostrum in quickly after calving. So hopefully you have good lively calves that'll get up and drink. But equally then, you want the cow to have good quality colostrum and a good bag of colostrum. So quality and quantity. And what really feeds into that is the nutrition before calving. So as we were talking about nutrition, bear in mind that you want to have the cow on a decent diet before calving, to have decent quality colostrum, and which really feeds into calf health. We go on to the next slide. I suppose just to follow on that, like one of the big vaccines that I'm a big fan of when it comes to sucklers is the scour vaccine. So it covers rotavirus, coronavirus, and E. coli. And there's actually a new vaccine, a crypto vaccine on the market now as well. So it is a pre-calving vaccine. What it does is it actually boosts the cow, and in turn then that boosts the levels of antibodies in the colostrum and in the new milk. And it's a great value, I think, vaccine in sucklers, because maybe unlike dairy calves when they go on to milk replace, so the suckler calf is just taking in the mother's milk all the time, and that milk, even weeks after calving, is still going to be rich in those antibodies and is going to be working locally in the gut. So it is a real, I think, good value vaccine in sucklers because they make maximum use out of it. And if you can prevent trouble and prevent scours and improve health, it is worth its weight in gold. Okay, a little bit about minerals then. So look, ideally, it's nice to know your status, but as well, all the research in Tagish would tell us that the main minerals that are deficient in grass silage are selenium, iodine, and copper especially. And I suppose when it comes to around calving and fertility, selenium, vitamin E have a big role around calving time. So they're two very important antioxidants, and we don't want to be deficient in them, because if we are, it can lead to the infections, but then especially retained afterbirth. So the two of those, the selenium and vitamin E, are critical for the cow to make sure she cleans, and obviously that has a huge bearing on her subsequent fertility. Iodine then, very important for metabolism, very important for the thyroid gland, and a deficiency there, what the most common way it manifests in around calving time is weak calves or stillbirths. So something that we really want to avoid. Obviously, very valuable calves inside these cows, and equally then, sure, the cow's career, you could say, is over if we lose a calf. And even a small deficiency, you can have lazy calves and slow to get up and drink, and really make life very difficult. So iodine is critical from that point of view as well. The other big mineral then, I suppose, around calving time is magnesium. And not so much for milk fever now in sucklers, but still they need to mobilize calcium for colostrum and milk production. So the last thing they need around that time is to be low on calcium, which can slow down calvings and cause problems as well. So magnesium needs to be supplemented in the weeks coming up to calving. So I suppose your options are, you can dust bag mineral on the silage. Buckets are absolutely fine in sucklers, so they don't need the same level as magnesium as the dairy cows. So magnesium buckets will do fine. Or another option then maybe is a bolus to cover the trace elements, and maybe CalMag to get your bit of magnesium into them as well. So, but it's important to make sure those main ones are being supplemented for successful calvings and healthy calves. Okay, Maeve. And I suppose this is just a quick slide then on maybe what you might do to intervene with cows that did have problems. So if they did have problems, either difficult calvings, twins is another big one for retaining afterbirths, just retained fetal membranes after a hard calving, or any other sickness. Try and keep a good record of these cows, and they're the ones, if the vet is in the yard, or if you want to get them checked out, they're the cows to check out, and they may require a washout, or they may require some other treatment. And in general, I think it is well worth doing it, because you'll give them a much better chance if you can get them sorted out of a quicker return to service, better chance of getting them back in calf in a timely manner, and obviously a reduced risk of having to cull them. So the other big one then we spoke about earlier on, so the easy calving, the body condition score, and the third one we spoke about was actually the maternal bond. So we all know how the real strong bond that's there between the suckler cow and her calf. And what actually happens is the presence of the calf, the suckling, all those things, it actually releases endogenous endorphins inside in the brain. So you could almost say that the suckler cows, they're addicted to their calves. They're high on drugs while their calves are with them. But the downside to those endorphins is they actually suppress the fertility hormones in the brain. So the hormones that travel in the bloodstream down to cause the follicles to grow, to cause ovulation, these endorphins, they suppress them. And I suppose the way we can get around it then is to try and break or disrupt that strong bond. And I think, in my own experience, even the very fact of having a creep area, and even if the creep area is a little bit not completely open to the cows, it helps to break that bond a bit. So calves, they love being out in the creep area in the nice clean straw, so there's been plenty of time out there. And if you want to take it a step further, If you look in the picture on the left there, so for your autumn-born sucklers, there is the possibility, if you have an opening there in the creep area, to actually get them out to grass. So and there's advantages to that. So get them out into the fresh air, get them eating a bit of grass. Or for your spring-born sucklers, maybe getting the cows out to grass. So locking them into the creep area and letting the cows out to grass, and you get a bit of grass into the diet. You're saving a bit of silage, and you're also breaking the bond. And what it really, and anyone that has practiced it, you'll know that if you start breaking that bond, the cows, you could nearly see them starting to come cycling, that they come bulling. So it really does work, but it does require a bit of effort. So I suppose we've covered a nice bit now, trying to have our cows lined up in good fettle, ready to go on calf. And look, everyone would like to use more AI, so everyone would like to take advantages of the bulls that Rose is going to be talking about. But the challenge is heat detection and drafting out cows. But I suppose whatever chance you have is to use a good method of heat detection that's going to work for you to try and help you pick out these cows. And if you look at the little green table on the bottom, I suppose one of the challenges, we spoke about the average number of cows calving in the suckler herd. And what that really influences is the number of cows in heat. So the more cows in heat at the one time, the more mounts they'll have, the easier it is to pick them up visually, the easier it is that they're going to rub off the tail paint or the other heat detection aids. But generally, in most suckler herds, given the size, you're not going to have more than one or two cows bullying at the one time. And certainly if there's one cow bullying on her own, the activity is reduced, so it's harder to pick them up. But so whatever chance you have is to have a good method of heat detection. So the options are tail paint, and tail paint works very well. It'll be rubbed off well if there's enough activity. One tip there is to clip the rumps. So if you're clipping the tails, run the clippers back up over the tail head and apply your nice, neat, narrow strip of paint. That's going to be much easier rubbed off, not a big thick wad of paint. Crayons are very useful as well. So again, you can clip the rumps from to make a nice, neat strip, and it's easier notice then when they're rubbed off. They get rubbed off a little bit easier probably than tail paint, so they're useful when there's less activity. They work very well indoors, very easy to have them in your pocket, very easy to top up. So if cows are lined up at the barrier, you could run along behind them, check out which one is missing it, and even top them up as you go along. Scratch cards then. Again, you can use them in cows. They work very well in heifers, so they're that bit easier rubbed off. You don't have to keep them topped up. So big difference here is you don't clip for them. So you apply the glue onto the card, onto the cow, wait for it to get tacky and stick on. And you can use, if you really want to I suppose, use the best approach possible, is put the scratch cards and the crayons on together, and you really have the belt and braces approach. And you have two methods of heat detection, and you can't do much better than that. So really with heat detection, what you're trying to do is avoid missing cows, because every time you miss one, they're gone 3 weeks. And then when you do present them, that you're confident that they're actually in heat and that the timing is fairly right, so that they'll have a good chance of going calf after insemination. Then I suppose the vasectomized bull, he is a super aid, but he needs the chin ball really to make the best use out of him. And then of course we're in the era of technology, so whether it is collars or tags, I suppose the challenge with the suckler is their proximity to the yard for the antenna to pick up the data. But look, there's probably ways around that as well. And I suppose your other option then, and I think there's a really live option, to be honest, is synchronization. So it does require a bit of there is a cost to it. It does require a bit of effort. But I suppose the big difference for me with synchronization compared to heat detection is that the work is planned work. So you decide you want to AI your cows, fixed time AI on such a day, you work back, talk to your vet, talk to your technician to plan the whole thing. You follow the vet's advice then as regards the drugs, and what you end up with at the end of these programs then is a bunch of cows ready for insemination at the one time. So, and the work in between is planned work. So this is, I suppose, an Irish designed program that I've up on the screen. So this came out of a big field trial with Tagish a good number of years back. And it was really designed to minimize the handlings in the crush. So this is just 3 handlings in the crush, and all your cows are AI'd. So a 10-day program. And I suppose a few notes about it, like it won't overcome. You still have to have your body condition score right. This cows need to be calved long enough, so it won't overcome, you know, nutrition or low body condition score. Another thing that's going to happen if you AI them all to one day is that the repeats are going to come to one time. So some people might say that's a disadvantage that they're coming to one time, and it can be a disadvantage if you're relying on a bull. But if you want to AI them, it can be a real advantage because you've another chance. So the repeats will come 18 to 24 days. You've actually another chance to put on your heat detection aids and AI and really put in the effort for that week to pick up the repeats. So that program, the odd cow might come in early on day 9. I suppose I would try and, if a cow came in early on day 9, I would try and heat detect them and AI them. I know Rose uses this program at home. She might talk about it later on, or we might discuss it in the questions, but she just does it blind and gets on very well with it. Then if you're using sex semen, I suppose you do need to put on the heat detection aids, and it's sexed. It's only sexed on the cows that have the tail paint or the scratch card well rubbed off. And another little caveat, I suppose, with that program is there's a drug there in the middle on day 7 called ECG, or equine chorionic gonadotrophin. So the dosage of that is very important, not to overdose, that you can get the risk of twins. So drive on, mate, but we'll just have a look at the heifer program. So I won't go into this in detail. Same kind of advice around the repeats and around the management. Heifers need to be above target weight really to get on well. But yeah, so fixed time AI at the end, and really in heifers, we mentioned earlier about the easy calving being so important. And often the stock bull on the farm, you might be more of a cow bull than a heifer bull. So these fixed time AI programs, I think they offer a great opportunity to actually AI your heifers and get them in calf to a nice easy calving bull. Click on again. What's becoming more popular, I suppose, now is sex semen. And Rose might touch on it. So this is the very same program, slightly altered. So a good bit of research went into this on dairy heifers, in the taggish dairy heifers, not last year, but the 2 previous years, looking at sex semen. So it's the very same program for beef and dairy heifers. It works equally well in both. But what happened was that they delayed the time of AI with sex semen and actually got a 9 or 10% improvement in conception rate by delaying the time of AI. And I suppose that brings us on then to sex semen. And we're pretty much on to the last slide. And I suppose the 3 big things with sex semen, so it is a different product. It has gone through the sexing process, which is about 8 hours in the lab. So that does knock the steam out of the semen a little bit. So it doesn't last as long inside the cow. It's expensive to produce, so there's less cells inside the cow. So 4 million in the Munster straws, maybe versus 15 to 20 million in a conventional straw. So they're the 2 big differences. And I suppose because of that, we need to put a bit more effort and a bit more detail if we want to get on well with sex semen. And the first thing we need to do is be fairly rigorous about the cow and the heifer selection. So they need to be calved long enough. They need to be free from any problems, healthy cow, healthy uterus, and they need to be in good body condition. And the heifers, they need to be above target weight. So you have to give sex semen a real fighting chance to get good results with it. The next thing is the semen handling. So that's more if you're DIY, or the technicians do it anyway, but making sure the temperature, the clean, cool boiled water in the flask, descale flask, and the temperature is right. So 35 to 37 degrees for a minimum of 45 seconds with a sex straw. And then to only thaw enough straws that you get into the cow quickly. So the rules are a little bit different around that. So it needs to be into the cow within 5 minutes. And I suppose the last thing then is the timing. If you look at the graph on the bottom there, and you'll see over on the left is the start to standing heat, and way over on the right is ovulation at around 28 to 30 hours after the start to standing heat. So conventional, there's a big window. We can go right from the start to standing heat up to 12 hours after the end of standing heat. But with sexed, our window is tighter. So if we go too early, the sext will run out of steam. So it has gone through that process. The likelihood is it won't last long enough inside the cow. So we need to go 12 hours really, or 10, 12, 14 hours after the start to standing heat. And I suppose because of the nature of the sex and the whole process, we can actually go that little bit later than conventional. So we can push the boat out a little bit in the knowledge that it's after going through this capacitation process. So it's after sparing a little bit of time by going through that process in the lab instead of inside the cow. So the last slide then, Maeve, and we'll move on to Rose then and hear about the bull. So this is just a summary, really. So body condition is really, really important that they're calving cows down in good body condition. We spoke about the nutrition before and after calving. The big point there is not to be pinching cows before calving, not to be restricting them, because they're actually energy requirements are actually quite high. We spoke about the colostrum and the vaccine for scour. Heat detection, then it is a challenge. Generally, these groups are smaller, activity is lower, so it is a challenge. And whatever chance you do have is to put on the right heat detection aids and watch them and put in enough effort watching them. The restricted suckling it really does work. It requires a bit of effort, but it really does work. And look, I think synchronization, if you want to use more AI, for me, it's hard to look beyond synchronization. So get the advice and the help from your vet to get on the road properly. Plenty detail, plenty communication with the vet and the technician, and it is possible to get good results and get on well and get more, and I suppose reap the benefits of the choice that AI will bring you and the quality of calves that AI will bring you. So that's it from me.
Thanks very much, Dennis. Just a reminder there, if anyone has any questions for Dennis, just put them into the chat. But I suppose while Rose is setting up there, I suppose what I took from it, I said from the start, and I think it's always a stark point, is there's so much room for improvement there, where it's almost one and a half or one in five cows don't have a cow every year, which I think that's one of the big things where every suckler farmer could really try to make an improvement on. And I suppose Dennis, you went through a lot of helpful points to try and help that. I suppose if you had one option in the morning and what would you be recommending if you took one thing from your presentation that a farmer could improve? What would you say is the best thing he could do for this breeding season?
So I suppose you're in a pretty good time now as regards having a look at the cows, having a look at the body condition. So definitely don't pinch them before calving. Try and calve them down in the right body condition. But I think if I really wanted to use more AI and use the benefits of AI, I would seriously consider synchronizing as a technology that will allow you to get a lot of AI straws into cows or heifers at the one time and at the right time. I think that's the one thing I would probably consider if I wasn't doing it.
Very good. And there's just a question in there. And we'll take Dennis is what bolus would you recommend for mineral supplements and when should it be administered and what is the cost per cow?
Couldn't exactly say the cost now, but I wouldn't say they're overly expensive anyway. But there's a few on the market there that have copper, iodine, selenium, and cobalt. I think there's a few with that combination, which are the main trace elements that are deficient in grass silage. So it would be one of them, there's a few of them on the market anyway. Without naming brands, I would say they all do a pretty good job. Some of them maybe are slightly better at copper than others. You've this chelated or this protected copper. So depending on the area you're in. But any of them will do a decent job as regards the selenium, the iodine, and the other two as well. Yeah.
Very
don't
good.
forget and if you're going down the bolus route, I suppose I would add in, you can buy CalMag in bags, and even if they're getting CalMag is 50% magnesium, so if you want to give them 20 grams of magnesium, you know, to give them about 40 grams of CalMag on the run up to calving there. Yeah.
Super. And we'll take one more question now before we move on to Rose, and that is in heifers, instead of the Prid or the Cedar, why would we not go on a single PG or a double PG?
So I suppose my own experience with it is certainly the single PG is not a fixed time AI program, that you're still heat detecting. And it's the beauty of the three programs I put up, or the two programs I put up, the beauty of them is the fixed time AI. So you actually don't have to heat detect them. So the one shot of PG, you're still heat detecting. They can come in between 42 or between 2 days and 4 or 5 days. So you're still heat detecting. Whereas the big advantage of the Cedar or the PRIG program is the fixed time AI.
Super. Thanks very much, Dennis. If any more questions for Dennis, we will ask them at the end of the webinar. So for now, we will move on to Rose. So Rose is the head of the beef breeding program in NCBC, and she will discuss sire options for the season ahead. So thank you, Rose.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining. What I will do this evening is I'll go through a selection of the sires that we have available through Munster Bovine. Now, bear in mind, I think we have semen available for something like 450 bulls. So I'll just be going through a selection of what's available. There's a new suckler catalogue out now. It was just printed last month. So if you haven't had a copy, go and get yourself a copy from your local AI technician or breeding advisor, or if you contact the office, they'll get a copy out to you as well. There's a lot of information in the catalogue, and it's worth reading through, because there's a lot of information on it in relation to we had extra comments and so on in addition to the index, so it's worth going through. In addition, Munster Bovine have a super website, and you can identify your bulls based on whatever criteria that you want yourself for your own farm. So log on to that. It's really worth going through, and you can select bulls that are specific to your criteria and download your own catalogue. So that's worth doing as well. Great, so this is a typical page of our catalogue. This is one of our flagship bulls, Shannon Stan. So just a couple of comments on the page. I'll just grab a pointer here. The index you'll be familiar with. It's worth going through the comments because you'll get a bit of extra information there. The other extra information you have, it is small, so you might miss it, is the myostatin status, just over the picture there. So that gives you the status of the bull in relation to the double muscle gene. I'll talk a bit about that later on, but that's where you'll find that information. And also here then in the calving, I think, one of the first things we all think about when we're using an AI bull is the level of calving difficulty on heifers and the level of calving difficulty on cows. And I suppose look at the calving difficulty, always look at the reliability as well. And what will help you as well with the reliability is the number of records, because we print the number of records on our catalogue. So you can see Stan there with his calving difficulty, it's 98% reliable, and there's nearly 1,000 records in there. So when you see that many records, that you're pretty sure that the figure is not going to change. And that's the big thing about reliability. The higher the reliability, the less likely that figure will change in the next evaluation. And so when you have a proven bull, the more a bull becomes proven, the less a chance the index will change. And especially on calving, it's something we don't want to take any risk on. So when you're selecting the bulls, always look at the reliability as well. That's really, really important. After that, we put stickers, we call on our bulls, just a bit of extra information, whether it's SCEP eligible. We let you know whether we have female or male sex semen available. And then what purpose is the bull? What's he going to do for you? So we've weaning, replacement, finishing, and then an indication about calving. And as you can see, this bull Stan has pretty much got all the stickers, so he's a really, really good all-around bull. In relation to the index then, the replacement, terminal and dairy beef, that's an overall index that brings in a number of traits and puts one number on. But if you really want the detail, come down the page. So we've discussed the calving. Come down the page and look at the things that you're interested in for your herd. So for example, if you want bulls to produce weanlings, you're basically thinking about 3 figures: the calving, the carcass weight, and the carcass conformation. If you're looking for a bull to breed good quality replacements, you're still looking at the calving, but it's actually the bottom 3 lines of the big ones when you want to breed replacements. The first one is daughter calving difficulty. That's basically this bull's daughter's ability to calve. The next one is daughter milk, so that's the amount of milk. And the last one then is a fertility trait, it's calving interval. So it's the last 3 lines that we really need to look at if you want to breed replacements. Very, very often we just look at the overall replacement index, which kind of throws everything in and gives you one number. But it's important to look, because you could have a high replacement bull that's low on milk. You could have a high replacement bull that's low on fertility. So to make sure you have the key traits, look at the bottom 3 lines as well. And then obviously for cows, we need good temperament as well, and that's the docility figure. So the devil really is in the detail. And once you think about what you want the bull to do for you, it's easy then to sort out the criteria and to look at the traits that you're interested in. But absolutely look down here. Don't stop at the replacement and terminal index, which is what a lot of us do. Now, I'll talk a bit about myostatin because we have a lot of information available to us now on both the bulls and on the cows. And the myostatin status of the bulls is there just over the picture under the name. And I suppose there are a couple of things to remember about myostatin. And myostatin is, in other names for it, is the double muscle gene or the Coular gene. So it's all the same thing. And you have different variants of myostatin. When we talk about variants of myostatin, it's basically a mutation of the myostatin gene. So if you've a normal gene, you don't have a mutation, so we don't have to worry about those animals. When we have a mutation, then that's when we start to see changes in the animals and in the offspring. And there are 2 different types of variants. There's the non-disruptive and there's the disruptive. And the non-disruptive is fantastic because you get an advantage on weight, you get an advantage in shape, but you've no negative impact on calving ease or calving ability of the female. And we find that gene very commonly in Limousin and very commonly in Aubrac. And you basically don't have to worry about it. If it's there, it's a bonus, but you don't have to worry about when you're thinking about mating and deciding on bulls to put on your cows. There are a number of disruptive variants as well, but the 2 main ones are NT821 and Q204X. And with these ones now, we need to pay attention, because with these, the advantage is you get, in general, more carcass weight, you'll get more shape, but you have an increased incidence of calving difficulty because of higher birth weights. And also, if the female is a carrier, she has reduced calving ability. So it's really worth, when you're selecting the bulls and deciding what bulls to use in the catalogue, is have a look at the myostatin status. You might want it or you mightn't want it, but the important thing is to use the information that's actually there. And this is what the information looks like. So and like all genes, it's inherited. There's 2 copies. We all have 2 copies of all the genes we have, and only one will be passed on to the offspring from the sire, and one will be passed on from the mother. So if you see plus plus, it just means we have the normal myostatin. We don't have any mutations, so you have a non-carrier. So that's very common in the Hereford breed, for example. We don't have myostatin in the Hereford breed. This is an example of a typical Limousin, about 90% of the Limousins. They're non-carrier for the disruptive variants, but most limousines have 2 copies of the F94L. So you don't have to worry about those. So when we talk about carriers and non-carriers, it's just the first bit of the information that's useful that we give you. So if we go back to our, Shannon Stan, he's a non-carrier for the disruptive, and he's 2 F94Ls. So we don't have to worry about him. He's a non-carrier. It's the first piece that that's the really important piece of information. Then bulls that have 1 copy, we just say NT821, so they have 1 copy of the NT and they have a normal. All Belgian blues have 2 copies of the NT, and that's really worth bearing in mind. So that means if you have Belgian blue females in your herd, if they're daughters of a Belgian blue bull, they have to have at least 1 copy. So they're all carriers of at least 1 copy. We have some limousines in the catalogue that have 1 copy of NT and 1 copy of the FL, so it's just this 1 copy we have to worry about. We've got some that are carrier of Q, and then you can get the Q with the FL as well. But you never have to worry about the FL. It's just the carriers of the NT and the carriers of the Q. And I suppose the rule of thumb is, if you're using carrier bulls, to avoid calving difficulty, use them on non-carrier females. And if you have carrier females, use non-carrier bulls on them. So if you have daughters of if you have cows that are sired by Belgian blue bull, you know they're carrier. So to avoid trouble, you're better using a non-carrier on them. Now, if you want really super quality weanlings, or you're into the commercial show scene, you can cross carriers on carriers, and you will get that amazing animal, but make sure you're at home to calve them, because you do need supervision of calving when you cross a carrier on a carrier. Now, if you're a member of Herd Plus, you will be able to go into your profile and see the status of your females. So this is just one I pulled off earlier. And what you do is go into profiles up here and go into genomic profiles. And what that will show you then is it'll show you your myostatins, and it'll show you your polled animals as well. So all of these animals here are fully polled. They're carrying 2 copies of the polled Celtic. And this female here, she's carrying 1 copy of NT. All the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the top 5 there are carrying 1 copy of NT. The rest of them are 0, so that means they're non-carriers. Sometimes if the lab doesn't get a good enough sample, they don't have a good enough, they call it call rate, to read all the myostatins, so then you get a no result. So if you really want to know the status of those animals, you need to send a fresh sample into ICBF. But in general, for most of the breeds, if you have the Q and if you have the NT here, that will cover most of them. In the short-term breed, then you'll find a little bit of E226X. After that, that's is quite uncommon actually. So the big ones are the NT and the Q204X. And with the FLs, it's an advantage if they're there, but you don't have to worry about them. You can consider them non-carriers. Great, so just to move on to some of the bulls that we have available, and I'll start with bulls from maiden heifers, because I suppose it's one of the reasons that a lot of suckler farmers use AI. They'll use it on the maiden heifers because with the proven AI bulls, you really can predict the level of calving difficulty, which is very difficult with a stock bull or a young test AI bull. And our top bull for maiden heifers is Powerful Proper, fully proven bull now, exceptionally easy calving. He's 7.5% at 99% reliable. You can see the number of records, and really, really good quality, correct, nicely muscled, stylish cattle. He's a very heavily used bull, and it's fair to say there's nearly universal satisfaction with the quality of the progeny. His daughters have just started to calve down now, and they have good calving ability, which is really good news, because sometimes with easy calving bulls, the daughters do not have good calving ability, and that's something that we work a lot on, is to make sure that the daughters have good calving ability as well. So proper easy calving himself, his daughters have good calving ability, so very, very safe bull to use on maiden heifers. Erebos is another bull that's very safe to use on maiden heifers. He's slightly easier than Proper, 7.2, and high reliability as well, at over 90% reliability. And I suppose the rule of thumb, if you're using AI for easy calving and maidens, make sure they're around the 7.5%, and make sure they're fully proven. And by that I mean more than 90% reliable. And I would avoid my-statin carriers. So any bull we recommend for maidens will never be my-statin carrier, and they'll be around the 7.5 at high reliability. We make sure that they're proven before we recommend them. Now, Shannon Stan is the other bull that's there. He's 8% on heifers now. So if I was using him on heifers, I would make sure that I'd strong heifers, and I would also make sure that the heifers weren't very heavily muscled heifers, because the more muscling you have, the less calving ability the female has. So the really safe bulls is Proper and Erebos, and after that Shannon Stan on strong heifers. Now these are two younger bulls. They're predicted to be easy calving on heifers, but we're not recommending them yet. We're waiting for more data. But the bull that's looking very interesting is Shannon Samurai. He's very easy calving on cows. We don't have enough data on heifers yet, but we expect that he will be easy enough. And the other big thing about Shannon Samurai is that he's a negative bull for gestation. So the progeny will calve slightly before time, which is super for a limousine. We don't have a lot of limousines that are negative on gestation, and he's the only bull that's available from any company that's negative on gestation. So that's very, very useful when it comes to calving as well. Other breeds then for calving, and for those of you that are calving at 2 and you really want to really reduce risk at calving, there's a great selection of other breeds there where you will get bulls available at about 5.5%. And you nearly need that level of calving ease when you're calving your heifers at 2. So just a couple of options there. So that's Sire Bull Roy. He's a fully proven bull. He's around a long time now. Very safe bull on heifers. He's just 5.5% at 99% reliable. So very, very safe. We have a lot of Angus available as well that are suitable for suckler heifers. Most of the Angus there are less than 5%. And I suppose the rule of thumb with Angus, when you're using them on suckler heifers, is to watch the carcass weight. Because some of the Angus that are mainly used for dairy heifers will not have very high carcass weight. And you can use, there's plenty of bulls available that have the calving ease, that have high carcass weight as well. So Vingabus is a very nice option there, just 4% calving, 13 kilos of carcass. Another bull that we're using very successfully for years on maiden heifers is the Aubrac bull, Turlough Magnificent, super quality bull. He's just 6.5%, so he's easier than most of the limousines that are available for heifers, very high reliable and very high carcass weight. So you're nearly 20 kilos of carcass there. And the Aubrac is a lovely breed for suckler cows as well. They're really maternal, they're good on milk, they're good on fertility, and they're a great cross with the Charolais. So you know what I mean, I'd really consider them if I'm looking for a bull to use on maiden heifers, because you will be happy with the progeny as well. Great, so there are heifer bulls. I suppose just a kind of a few general comments on calving. If you're looking at AI bulls and you're trying to decide what bulls to use, benchmark the bulls you're looking at with what you've used in the past and what you were happy with. So for example, if you were happy you know, some people use our Charlie Bull Lapon on maiden heifers, for example. If you were happy with Lapon, if you're happy with that level of calving ease, then you know that's fine. You'll be able to use bulls of similar. If you thought he was too difficult, select easier bulls. So benchmark what you've used in the past, and then you know with the bulls you're selecting, you can go up or down depending on what you want. Heavily muscled females have reduced calving ability, and that's just a fact of life. So watching the myostatin carriers will help you a lot there. Not all myostatin carriers are heavily muscled, so you won't always see it in the female. So it's worth checking your Her Plus so that you know the carriers yourself. As Dennis pointed out to us there, body condition has a big impact on calving. The higher the body condition, it reduces the calving ability of the female. So the cows need to be in nice body condition, not over fat at calving. Pelvic type, pelvic width, the wider the pelvis, the more open the pins, the greater that female's ability to calf. So when you're selecting your cows, make sure that you're selecting ones with good width of the hips and good width of the pins. And then labour. Is there someone there going to be at home to supervise the calving? So if there isn't, you need to be a bit more conservative. If there is, you know what I mean, you can use a slightly higher calving difficulty bulls because you know that you'll be there to actually calve the cows or calve the females. Okay, so moving on to bulls for weanling. So the bulls for weanlings in our catalogue all have the weanling sticker on them. So for Limousin, we've a super choice of Limousines to breed weanlings, and the top three would be what I would consider our top three bulls for weanling production. Rigby's an exceptional bull, very, very heavy weight gain. He's plus 38 kilos carcass weight, which is really exceptional for a Limousin. So really recommend him for weanling production. He's a non-carrier, so you can put him on carrier cows. Rolex will give you super weight and super shape. So he's the top bull we have at the moment to breed really good quality weanlings. He's 7.1% calving difficulty, but he's proven at that, so you know that's what he is. Some bull, younger bull, calves are hitting the ground. We're really, really happy with him. He's only 5% calving difficulty in beef cows, which is super, and he's a carrier of Q204X. Very, very good bull. Lovely shape, very stylish, works best on a bigger cow, but very, very nice quality. So they'll be our top three bulls for weanlings. Our bottom three bulls then are good weanling producers as well, but you'll have less shape than you will on the top three. Shannon Stan, Celtic Rembrandt, and Lisnassar. And they're three what I would call all-around bulls. You can use them, you know, they'll do a lot of jobs for you. You'll get good weanlings, very good females, and they'd be good for finishing systems as well. So I would consider the three of them really good all-around bulls. I've marked the bulls that we see female sex semen available from, and we have male sex available for some bulls as well. So if you take Rigby, we've both male and female available. So these are our Limousin wheeling sires ranked on terminal index. So I suppose a couple of things to consider when we're looking for bulls for weanlings. We're always going to look at the calving, absolutely. The other thing is weight gain, because we're paid on weight, and weight is absolutely essential for good weanling bulls. And Rigby's the king of those. He's plus 38 kilo on carcass, which is absolutely phenomenal, and good on carcass conformation as well. But our top two bulls then on carcass conformation, which will give you the shape, are Ardley Rolex and Sunbull. So they three exceptional bulls there to breed weanlings. Moving on to replacement sires, sticking with the Limousin breed. A lot of interest now in breeding your own replacements because of heifers are expensive. And AI is a great way of breeding your own replacements because you have greater data on the bulls. So you can use bulls that we have good data on from calving, fertility, milk, and calving ability, and also temperament. And also we've 6 semen available from our top replacement bulls. And you can select the cows that you want to breed your replacements from and use these bulls on them. And then if you female sex, then you're a step ahead again, that you'll get, you're 90% sure that you'll get a female. Shannon Stan and Celtic Rembrandt will be our top 2 replacement bulls. They're both in the top 5 on replacement index, so 2 exceptional bulls. Good on calving, not for heifers, but absolutely fine on cows. Very good carcass weight, good on temperament. Stan is good on milk. They're both good on fertility, and both good on calving ability. So 2 very, very interesting bulls, and we've female sex semen available from both of them. O'Mallet here is a homozygous pole bull. He's fully proven for all the female traits, and he's a very, very interesting bull because, first of all, he's homozygous poled, so none of the progeny will have horns. He's fully proven at with a good index. So if you're in the SCEP scheme and you're looking for high index bulls, if you use the high reliability bulls, the figures are less likely to change. He's good on milk, proven to be good on milk. He's the #1 limousine in Irish AI that's proven for milk. He's very good on fertility. He's the top 1% of the breed, and he's poled, which is an added bonus. So he's a very interesting bull to use if you want a high milk, high fertility pole bull. The other bull that's really interesting to breed females is Rembrandt. And Rembrandt is the bull, I have to say, we've universal satisfaction with. Everybody loves Rembrandt. He's breeding really well, really good quality cattle, good on temperament, super females. And the other big thing about Rembrandt is he's not related to Caprico Arval. And in Limousin, and this is across all AI companies and also across Limousin breeders, a lot of Arval would have been used. So a lot of you would have Arval in your herd already. So Rembrandt is a really high index bull, and he's not related to Arval. So he makes him a bull that's very, very easy to use. His first daughters have calved down, and they've very good calving ability. So it's less than 4%, which is just fantastic. So you know, if you're using AI and you're using Limousin, I think Rembrandt should be one of your top choices to have in the head to use. High milk, if you really want high milk, you really need to go for the top bulls on milk. So we've limousines there over 6 kilos of milk, and you really need to go to that level if you really want to improve milk in the herd. Otherwise, all the rest of them will have enough milk if you have milk in the females beforehand. Our top bull for milk is a pre-order bull there, Nebbiolo. So he's a very interesting bull because he's super on milk and he's super on temperament. 2 very, very good traits that you want in females. Erebos as well, the easy calving sire, very, very high in milk. And those 2 were proven in France. Shannon Stan is predicted to be good on milk, but he's not proven yet. O'Mallet, our pole bull, he is proven on milk. So O'Mallet and Nebbiolo are fully proven. Shannon Stan and Listener Sir, they're predicted to be good, but we don't have daughters calved down yet to know for absolute sure. So if you want 2 proven bulls for milk, I'd go with O'Mallet and Nebbiolo. But Stan and Listener Sir, they're not high risk. I would still use them to breed replacements. Okay, moving on to Charlie. And again, a lot of people that use AI are weaning producers, and they use AI because they can get the quality and they know the level of calving that they're dealing with. The top 3 bulls would be our top 3 bulls to breed good quality weanlings. They're very good on weight and very good on shape. Omega is probably one of our favorite bulls now to breed weanlings. He's fine on calving, 7%. He's a carrier of the Q gene, which you'll need in general if you want really that extra shape. Ricky, another super bull, a son of Feaston, really doing a good job, very, very consistent. And Rory's a very good bull as well, but he's at 11% calving difficulty. So you'll know yourself what level of calving difficulty you're happy with. The 3 bulls at the bottom are 3 good wheeling bulls as well, but with easier calving. Romarin is an incredibly interesting bull. He's only 3% calving difficulty at very high reliability, and he's a non-carrier for myostatin. So very, very interesting bull. He's the easiest calving Charlie we've ever had, or anyone has ever had, proven at that. Orby, very heavily used bull, huge satisfaction with him, easy calving, good quality, good shape. We've male and sex female available from him. And Receive is relatively newer bull that some of you mightn't have used in the past. We're very pleased with him, and he's just 6.5% on calving. So we've a super choice of Charlies for calving. Omega and Ricky would be our top 2 for quality while managing the calving. And then if you want to go easier, you've Romarin, Orby, and Receive. And these are the same bulls, and I've ranked them on terminal index. Romarin is the top bull there. He's the #1 bull available at the moment on terminal index. Very, very good quality, very easy calving, very interesting bull to use. The next bull on the list is Receive, who's here. Very interesting bull as well, because you get the quality with the calving ease. And then Omega and Ricky are a little step up. So use them on cows that you know the calving ability, and you get really, really super quality weanlings. They're all fully proven now. You can see with the calving records. And the carcass weights here, like the first 2 bulls have carcass weights plus 40 kilos. Most of the bulls there are plus 40. The breed average for Charlie is 35 kilos. So you have a huge selection of super quality bulls there. For calving ease, Orby and Romarin would be our 2 main bulls. Lapin is also still available, and Lapin has been the most used bull in the suckler herd for the last 3 years. And just for comparison, which is always a good idea when you're trying to decide on a new bull to use, Lapin is 5.5% calving, Orby is 5.2, so a little bit less, and Romarin is only 3.1. So we know now that these 2 guys are easier calving than Lapin. So that's what I mean by benchmarking the bulls. Look at a bull that you know well, and then compare the bulls you're considering using with the bull that you know well. These are 2 new bulls that we're testing this year. Udo on the left is exceptional shape, really, really good quality bull. And Tamarin on the right is a performance tested bull from France. Udo was predicted to be only 4% calving difficulty. We believe that he will be higher than that, so we put the mature cows only sticker on him. And when you see that, it's just a little bit of a word of caution. So you would when you see mature cows only, absolutely use the bulls, but pick the cows for them that you know that are good calvers and that you know are mature. That's Romarin. If you haven't used him in the past, go ahead and use him. And I suppose the best way of describing him is he's the new Lapin, really, except he's polled as well, which is an added bonus. He's the #1 Charlie available now in terminal index. Okay, moving on to blues. Again, fantastic selection. The top 2 would be 2 big sellers for us because of their colour. Rolly gives beautiful colours, high percentage of roans, and you get that speckledy colour through the body. Hongwang gives more of a dark red block colour, but a really good quality bull, lots of shape and good weight gain. Our top 3 wheeling blues are the 3 in the middle. Edison is outstanding. If I had to pick one bull to use, I would absolutely pick Edison, because you have the calving, you have the quality, and he brings really nice colours as well. After that, Cashmere is breeding really well. And then if you want something really special, I'd go with Octopus. Edison, I just love this bull. He's only 8% calving difficulty. He's very high in conformation. He's 3, which is phenomenal. Super quality weanlings, and the progeny have lovely colours. this heifer here that this young man was showing, and Charlotte will show. That's the kind of a colour you get from Edison. So just lovely colours through them. Really stylish cattle, just lovely. After that, for those of you that are into commercial showing or really want that wheeling that will win shows and sales for you, this is the selection of bulls that I would recommend. And Octopus is in there. He's been in our catalogue for a couple of years. He's breeding very, very well. The other three are three new bulls to Ireland, but they're breeding well in Belgium. Django, Dorval, and Gulliver. So the semen of all of those now available from Munster Bovine. And I suppose with all the bulls we're using, we need to decide the level of calving difficulty. So these are the blues I have ranked on calving. So Edison is the easiest at 9, then Rowley. And then we have a great selection of bulls at about 10 or 11%, which most guys using blues are happy with. So you would have used, those of you that are using blues, you would have used Folon, for example. He's 11.5. So you can see that Cashmere, Rowley, and Edison are much easier than him. Some of you might have used Knox, which would be a good step up in calving, but super quality cattle. So Octopus is roughly the same as Knox, but you really will get something special with Octopus. And then on confirmation, and once you're going over 2.8, heading up towards 3, that's Edison, 3.24, that's phenomenal shape. I suppose in general, bulls for wheelings, and sometimes we love to cross different breeds in Ireland, and just from experience, if you're using blue, they work best in Limousin, Partenay, blonde cows. If you have Simmental, Sire, Hereford, Angus cows, breeds like that, I think Charlie or Limousin is the best breed to put on them. If you have Aubrac cows, Charlie and Aubrac is just a match made in heaven. Charlie and Sire is a match made in heaven as well. So try and use the breeds that work well together. I wouldn't be putting blue on Sire cows. You will get a much better result if you use a heavily muscled Charlie. Also, if you have blue cross cows, we know they're all carriers. So I would use a Limousin on them. That's a non-carrier. And that's the breed combinations that tends to work well. Simmentals, again, very, very good choice. Arp has been around for a long time, and he's just a phenomenal bull, probably the best bull ever. He'll do everything right for you. If you want to use something different, the polled bull, Port Royal Mr. Bull, is really breeding well, super quality cattle, and he's homozygous polled, which makes it very interesting because you don't have any horns. Pirate is relatively new, but the calves are on the ground are nice. And the other proven bull we have that's breeding very well is Here's Johnny. So we have a great selection of Simmentals, and we female sex semen from Pirate and from Lynx. Angus, we have a massive stud of Angus in NCBC now. And if you're using Angus on sucklers, I suppose there are two reasons people use Angus on sucklers. One of them is for calving ease on heifers. And the other one, if you're finishing Angus, or if you're finishing cattle, guys are really starting to like Angus now. And I suppose the one thing to watch, especially if you're finishing cattle with Angus, is the carcass weight. Watch the carcass weight kilos. And we've Angus is there now plus 20 kilos. We've one there plus 27, but he's not proven yet. But for the proven bulls, once you're over 13 or 14 kilos, that is a high carcass weight Angus. So, but watch the carcass weight if you're using Angus and sucklers. That's really the only thing in the Angus that might let you down, because the range is huge. So you can see there, we've Angus is there at plus 6 kilos, and we've Angus is there at plus 27 kilos. You don't see the same range in carcass weight in the other breeds. So if you're using Angus and sucklers, make sure you're using the bulls for the suckler herd as opposed to the Angus that we use on dairy heifers. Use the high carcass weight bulls, and these are the 4 bulls that I would really recommend. Eagle is a new bull and he's just a phenomenal bull. West Ellen Bundy is very interesting. He's plus 27 kilos in carcass. Van Dam, we're very pleased with his calves and he's carrying the red factor, so that makes him interesting. And Knockmounta is a very nice bull for sucklers as well. So there's a massive choice, but just make sure you're using the right bulls. We've 2 Red Angus. Red Mario is an absolutely beautiful bull, but he doesn't have good indexes. But we expect that they will come because it's a new bloodline. And Dalrida Electrode, he has good indexes. He qualifies for the SCEP scheme, and he's a very nice quality bull. Should be easy calving. Okay, just to finish up, you will be familiar with the regular suckler catalogue that I've just gone through. Also in January, we plan to do what we call catalogues for our prestige range. And these are bulls that we recommend for pedigree breeders, and also if you're into commercial showing. Some of these bulls, the semen is limited. Some of them are bulls that are legends of their breed, you know, bulls that you would know well, that have done a phenomenal job over time, like PPS in the blue, for example. And we'll have those catalogues available online in January 26. So watch out for that. As I said earlier on, the suckler catalogue is available, so there's a copy of it online, but if you want a hard copy, ask your technician or breeding advisor. Have a look at the website, and you can really be rest assured that when you have the Munster catalogue in your hand, that you have the best bulls in the country available. And you know, independently verified by ICBF, we've 7 of the top Charlies in terminal index. We've 9 of the top limousines on replacement index. 4 of the top limousines on daughter milk, which is something that we all need if we breed in replacements. And 9 of the top Angus, 6 of the top blues on confirmation, which is one of the reasons everyone uses blues, if they want extra shape. And we've also 6 of the top 10 limousine on gestation length. Samurai is number 1 and Stan is number 2. So you just have a phenomenal choice there of the top bulls available in the country. Great, Alan, thanks. I'll leave it at that, and I'm happy to take questions.
Super. Thanks, Rose. An excellent presentation and an overview. I suppose there's a good few questions there, so we'll get straight into those. There's just one question there on the confirmation of Rembrandt is higher than Rolex. Do you think that is correct?
I suppose a couple of things. If you're breeding, sorry, I'm playing my slides there. What carcass confirmation is when the animal is slaughtered. So that is how an animal will grade at slaughter age, at slaughter. If you want bulls for weanlings, you need that shape and that muscling earlier in life. So it depends on what, you know, I would consider Rolex to have higher carcass confirmation, especially at the weaning stage. A lot of bulls have high carcass confirmation, and you might be looking at them thinking, I don't see much shape on those. Bulls with very good tops and very good plates will grade well in the factory, but they mightn't impress you to look at because they won't have that big roundness of hindquarter. So that's why, do you know what I mean? If we're saying that Rolex is more a bull for wheeling production, we're talking about having that muscling earlier.
Very good. And then I suppose just then there was an earlier question on, and I know you have actually shown one bull. There was a question on what limousine bulls are available polled. None of them. She couldn't find any in the catalogue. So what bulls?
Polled limousine. We have O'Malley, LM6280. He's homozygous polled, and he's in the catalogue. and he's fully proven replacement bull. We also have another bull in the catalogue, but he's heterozygous polled, called Celtic Super Furry. The homozygous, none of the calves will have horns. The heterozygous, roughly 50% of them will grow horns.
And there's also Testament, there's also a homozygous.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. Thanks, Alan. And we have another bull, Greenson's Testament, who's in the catalogue as well. He is homozygous polled. He'll breed you super weanlings. I didn't talk about him because his calving is a little high. He's up at 9%. And always, if I find a bull that's easier, that'll do the same job, I'll go with the easier option. You'll have more live calves and you'll get your cows back in calf quicker and easier.
Just there, to give Rose a break from the questions, there was a question there for Dennis. When is the best time to vaccinate the cows for scour?
So the two vaccines, Alan, that I'd up on the screen are similar vaccines anyway. So they do for coronavirus, and E. coli. So 3 to 12 weeks. They're both one-shot vaccines. They're 3 to 12 weeks before calving into the muscle, and they can generate lumps. So that's the other thing. So just clean new needles. Just make sure the dosing or it's an automatic gun that is clean and working well, and probably I'd avoid the rump. And where I do it myself is at the far side of the neck from where the TB test would be anyway. I reach around into the muscle on the far side of the neck. Yeah. You can get bits of reactions, but that's normal.
Super, thank you, Dennis. So there's just also a question in there about one of the older Belgian Blue bulls, New Red. Will he be available again? And I suppose this is an interesting question. What would you think is his daughters good for breeding?
Okay, I'm not sure. I don't think the semen is no longer available. But I would consider both Rolly and Hong Wang to be better quality bulls. In relation to his daughters for breeding, you have one copy of the NT there, so you are likely to get shape. Milk and fertility, I don't know. I would have to check, because in general, when we're talking about blues, we're thinking more about as a terminal sire.
Okay, and then I suppose another question here is they have an Angus cross Belgian Blue second calvers. They're looking for high conformation and high carcass weight. What limousine bull would you suggest?
Angus cross with blue.
Yes.
Okay. Now I don't know whether the blue is the sire or the Angus is the sire. If the blue is the sire, then we automatically know that those cows have one copy. So I would use a non-carrier limousine, and I would absolutely use Rigby. He's exceptional. He's very high carcass weight. He's plus 38 kilos. He's good on conformation as well. And the fact that he's a non-carrier, you'd be safe enough putting him on blue cows.
Okay, thank you, Rose.
Or Rembrandt, but I think Rigby would be I suppose Rigby my first choice. Rembrandt would do a good job, or Stan would do a good job as well.
Okay, thank you. I suppose there's a question here about one of the stickers. I suppose new to the catalogue this year, there's an IP sticker, and there's just a question on what does that mean for the bull.
Okay, so what the IP stickers mean is that it's IP protected, so that means that the genetics are protected. If you're a commercial herd owner, you can just ignore it. It doesn't mean anything. If you're a pedigree breeder, the bulls that are IP protected, their progeny, NCBC will have the first option to select that progeny as bulls to come into our stud. And I suppose the reason we IP protected our newer bulls is the investment that goes into the breeding program is absolutely huge. And we really want to protect that investment and to protect all of the investment that's gone in to Irish genetics, you know, from international AI companies. So we really want to make sure that the top genetics that's produced in Ireland, that we can protect it to stay in Ireland, to further the profitability of, in this case, beef herd owners. But bottom line, if you're a commercial farmer, don't worry about it. If you're a pedigree breeder, it just means that the NCBC have option on the sons.
Thank you. So there's a lot of questions coming in, and we'll try to get through the majority of them. So there's a few questions there is on what type, and they have a type of cow. So one person is looking at short-term cows and want to breed good commercial calves, and others then have their what's your favorite cross, a Simmental and Simmental and Charolais cow. So realistically, there, what kind of bulls would you use on a short-term, a Simmental, and Charolais cows?
Okay, so there's a couple of ways of looking at this now. So one thing you can do is completely ignore the breed for a minute and think about what are you trying to achieve. So if you want to produce good quality weanlings, you need as much carcass weight as you can get and as much conformation as you can get, and then work in the level of calving ease that you're comfortable with. And that varies a lot between herd owners. Okay, so I would, before I start thinking about breeds, I would really consider, what am I trying to do here? If you're finishing cattle, you need good carcass weight as well. You don't need the same level of carcass conformation as you do for weanlings, but you still need good carcass conformation. If you're breeding replacements, temperament is a big one on replacements. None of us want cows that are going to, you know, go after us, or they're too much hassle to get in and out of yards. So temperament is big, milk is big, fertility is big, and calving ability is big. So as opposed to getting hung up on breeds, I would consider, what do I want to achieve here? Then have a look at the females that I have myself. So if you want to produce weanlings and your cows are lower in carcass conformation, you really need to use high carcass conformation bulls. If your carcass conformation is okay, if you're happy enough with it, but you're down a bit on weight, use high carcass weight bulls. So have a look. We talk a lot about the index of bulls because there's always more information on bulls. But as a herd owner, look at your own cows, look at the index of your cows, and that's a great joy of using AI, you can select bulls to mate on the cows. Okay, so I really focus on that before I start looking at breeds. Having said that, then, looking at breeds, a shorthorn, most breeds cross well in shorthorn. And the lovely thing about shorthorn is you get the nice fashionable colour as well. So I wouldn't get too hung up on breeds if I shorthorn females. Simmental, Charolais work very well in Simmental. Limousin works very well in Simmental. Charolais cows, a lot of breeds work well in Charolais as well. So, and the other thing then is personal preference, what you like yourself. We all have, you know, personal preference of breeds. So what you like yourself. And then, you know, if you're producing weanlings, you need to use the breeds that have the highest carcass conformation to give you that shape. If you want replacements, you really need to use the high milk bulls, and you'll find higher milk bulls easier in some breeds than others. So if you want very high milk, for example, you're better off looking at the Simmental breed. If you want good enough milk, the Limousin is good. But if you want a lot of milk, you need to use the top of the Limousin. So I would look more, Alan, at the criteria and what's the purpose, what are you trying to achieve, what are you trying to breed.
That's very good advice. So I'll give you another question here, Rose, before I go back to Dennis. I suppose there's actually been a lot of questions in about the sailors. So I know we've two new sailor bulls. Do we have any feedback on those two bulls, or what do you know about them, Rose?
Not in Ireland. The feedback in France is positive. Not in Ireland, we just don't have calves on the ground yet.
Okay, and for Dennis, no, think the question is, can we go for a post-calving uterus examination for uterine ovulation? I think that's what the meaning is. Do
Involution, I think, is it? Yeah. So
yeah.
involution is the, I suppose, is the return to normal size of the uterus after calving, which generally takes about 2 weeks to go back down to normal size. You can, I mean, I suppose you have two options really. If you want to, go and check out your cows to make sure they're suitable for breeding, or they've cleaned up properly and they've involuted properly. Well, one is just to keep good records and actually target your examination then on cows that had problems or cows that had issues during the spring, like the ones I mentioned. And then some people do a blanket scan. So they get all the cows examined by ultrasound, so checking to see have they cycled, has there been an ovulation, and checking the uterus to make sure it is back down to normal size and clean. So you can do that, Alan, depending, I suppose, on the need.
Thanks, Dennis. And I suppose there is one more question there on for Dennis is have you seen many collars being used on suckler cows?
Um, I have, not a huge amount of them, but I have seen them being used on suckler herds, and they work well. They do the job absolutely fine. Obviously, there's a few different brands. The one challenge that's there is obviously dairy cows are into the parlour twice a day, and generally the base station is in the yard around the parlour. So the base station is what reads the collar, takes the information off the collar. And while there is a fair old range, maybe kind of up to 700 or 800 meters, depending on the topography of the ground, so that it needs a clear line of sight. The challenge with obviously animals not coming into the yard is the range from the base station to read the information from the collar. And there is, I know Sensub have a solution where there's a mobile base station that's actually doesn't need to be plugged in. So it's either solar powered or battery powered, that this thing actually moves around the farm in close proximity to the bunch of breeding animals, to the cows or the bunch of heifers. And then probably need a SIM card as well, and the information will pop up on your phone then as the cows are coming in heat and all the rest of it. Yeah. So it is possible, but there's an extra cost to that mobile base station, obviously. Yeah.
Super. So I know we're pushing on to 9:30, so we have a good few questions, but I'll just try to take two more. I'll actually answer one here. There's a question here: is Reese available in sex semen? He's not, but I would say Rigby and Rolex are two good alternative options that are available in sex semen. But then for Rose, there's a question here again on myostatin. So Receive and Omega are both good on the milk figures for their breed, but they're both a carrier for the CHO gene. Does the CHO gene affect your milk similar that it affects your muscle gain?
Yeah, a good question. I suppose everything we say about myostatin is kind of in general terms. Okay, but if you really want to know, regardless of the myostatin status, will a bull have milk, how difficult calving is going to be, how good the fertility is, look at those figures. So if you want to know about milk, look at the milk figure. And regardless of myostatin, then, if you know what I mean, if the bull is proven and he's good on milk, he will have milk. I have seen no evidence that the CHO gene affects milk. So the fact that they have CHO wouldn't worry me from the milk point of view. But the big thing is look at the milk figure, not the myostatin. Because we say in general, CHO carriers have higher calving difficulty. We've loads of CHO carriers that are very easy calving. So you know what I mean? A lot of what we talk about in myostatin is in general terms. But if you want to know the detail of a specific bull, look at the bit of information that you're interested in. Don't make assumptions. So Receive and what was Omega?
Omega.
Omega's actually quite a high reliability for milk. So they have milk. There's plenty of daughters in the ground, and they have plenty of milk. Receive, the daughters wouldn't be old enough to calve down yet. So I wouldn't worry about the queue at all.
Super. Thanks, Rose. So I will take one more question, and I suppose it's about color, and I think that's very apt in the current environment for sucklers. It's a big attraction. So the question is if using a blue bull on a red limousine, is it better to use a red bull to get the color or something like octopus for more quality?
Yeah, great question. Look, it's all down to personal preference. I mean, listen to the questions here tonight. What I talked about and the breeds I talked about is what we have most demand for. Okay. But look at the questions that came through. We have had questions about almost every beef breed that is available. They all have their strengths, they all have their weaknesses, but the big thing is everyone has a personal preference as to what type of cow they like, what breed she is, what color she is, all that sort of stuff. Down to the color here, I suppose if they were my cows, I would go for quality over color every time. Having said that, the red is fashionable, people like it. So if you do end up with a roan that is super quality, the guys into commercial showing will pay a lot of money for that weaning. But I would think on balance, if we're just thinking about, profitability and selling weanlings, I would go for quality over color every time. But lots of other people have a different preference and they would much prefer a little bit of color. You can always mix it up. You don't have to, you know what I mean? And that's what most people do. They'd use a bit of red for the color and then they'd mainly go for quality bulls.
Super, Rose. Thanks very much. Thanks to everyone that joined in tonight and everyone that participated in the questions. Apologize that we didn't get to all the questions. We tried to get to most of them tonight. I just also like to thank Dennis for Rose for their presentations tonight and their excellent answering of the questions. And finally, it was actually one of the questions as well was this was recorded, so this will be available on the Munster Bovine YouTube channel tomorrow, and you'll be able to find the link on our social media channels. So that's it from me, and thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone,
Thank you.
and good night.